my mind is blown. I sent a message to my friend Jean-Francois, and I knew he had been in Baja last year, so I just sent him a message and asked if he planned on being in Baja this year. He responded back, he said, "I'm there now." And then he sent me a link to a van gathering called Escapar that started in just a few days. I messaged him back and I said, "Okay, I'm thinking about it." And he said, "Don't think about it, just come." So I did. Hello and welcome to my channel, Becoming Bev. I did a trip down the Baja Peninsula in January and February of this year. I've been sitting on this footage for a while and finally took the time to edit it. I feel like this was a really important trip and I want to share some tips with you all. My friend Stacy joined me on the way there and we beelined for a van life event called Escapar Al La Baja. Now, this was 31 hours of driving, and I was really happy to have Stacy with me to help with some of the driving. This was my first big trip in my new van, and I'd been dreaming about going to Baja for a long time. So for me, it felt like a dream come true to get to do this. We crossed the Mexican border in Calexico, which is just about 15 minutes south of Yuma, Arizona. You're going to need a few things to cross the border. You need your passport. I also got Mexican car insurance. I read that that was recommended. Now, no one ever checked it, but I did get it. It cost about $600 for 6 months insurance. And then the other thing that you're going to need is an FMM tourist card. That was easy enough to get. It was just to stop at the border. You pull over, you go inside, pay your 48 bucks and go on down the road. It was that simple to cross the border into Mexico. Now, it was interesting. Of all the trips that I've been on all over the world, I had the most people call me worried and concerned. And honestly, there wasn't anything to be concerned about. The most dangerous things that I ran across were cows in the road and potholes. And then the other thing that I'd like to give a bit of warning about is a lot of the roads don't have shoulders. So if you were to break down, I think it would be a really good idea to have like orange traffic cones or something with you just to warn other cars that you're broken down and you're stopped in the road, because there's really nowhere to pull off. There's no shoulders. And then the next thing that I would have done differently is I would have had Starlink already installed in my van. There are long stretches of highway in Mexico and even pretty good sized towns where you don't have any internet service. There are places that I would have absolutely stayed longer at, but I didn't want my daughter or anyone else to worry about me. I do have Starlink in my van now, and I absolutely love it. It is a game changer. We arrived in La Paz. It wasn't just a van life gathering. There were all sorts of adventure vehicles and buses. My friend Jean was there with his big school bus art vehicle conversion. And he's pretty fascinating. He's an artist, but he had driven his van all the way from Oregon down to Ushuaia, Argentina, which is pretty remarkable. We had a good time at the festival, good music. I got to see old friends and make some new ones. We listened to some great music. We had a free place to park right on the beach. We got to watch the pelicans diving. It was wonderful to park right there on the beach and have views of La Paz and that bay like I did. I got a giggle out of this seagull with the grape. I stood there and watched him for about probably 5-10 minutes. He was just having a good time. He was obsessed with it. Now, there are some cool rock formations right there in La Paz where we were at. Stacy, Jean, and I did a 5.5-mile hike over a mountain. Well, it really wasn't a mountain. It was just a big hill, but it felt like a mountain. And we saw one of the prettiest beaches I've ever seen. I never get tired of seeing water this color. We also did a little boat trip out of La Paz. We got to see blue-footed boobies and frigate nests, and I got to swim with wild sea lions. At one point, you know, sometimes when you're on these snorkeling excursions, everybody's just kind of all on top of each other. And I always like to have a little more space when I'm snorkeling. At one point, I felt like someone was on me and I was thinking, I was frustrated. I was like, get off me, like scoot over. And then I turned and I realized it was a sea lion trying to crawl on my back. When we left La Paz, we stayed at a campground in Los Cerritos. And as you can see, I made some friends that were about at my same level. All right, go.
What do you call a cow with no legs? Ground beef.
Wait, where'd you go?
Yeah.
And I want to mention this too. Of all the places that I stayed, some of the places were free, but also I think the most expensive campground I stayed at was $19 a night, which I think is remarkable. Now, Stacy and I made it to Cabo San Lucas, and the first night that we were there, we parked the van in just a parking lot at the marina. I'd been to that marina a few times, and we just spent the night there in the parking lot. There's some fun shopping and some fun little restaurants there. The last 2 nights of Stacy's trip, we decided to splurge a little bit and get a nice resort hotel room. I enjoyed being at the resort. I enjoyed hanging out by the pool and the beautiful view of the arches of Cabo San Lucas. But when it came time to go to bed, I laid down in the bed and the mattress was hard and there was too much light coming in the room. And I was so uncomfortable. So I ended up getting up, grabbing a few things, and going out to the van. And I slept in the van in the parking lot of the hotel both nights. And then for Stacy's last, we shared a beautiful dinner at a restaurant called Selimar. The hotel was very surreal and super cool. So for her last night, we did it up right. Stacy went home to be with her boyfriend on Valentine's Day. So I was by myself on Valentine's Day, so I decided to do a whale watching excursion in Puerto Chale. There were times it was very cool. It felt like we were surrounded by the whales, but they were still, you know, a little distance away. And at one point we got splashed by a whale, and our little boat had some issues. Spending the night with the whales. Now, he did finally get it started after about 15 minutes, and we made it safely back to port. I began making my way back up north. I love what I call the art of meandering. So we beeline there, but I got to meander my way back up. Driving along, and I spot this little peninsula with campers, you know, parked on there. And I pulled over and took a few photos, and I thought, I'm gonna go down there and check that out. I went down there. It was this gorgeous little bay area. You could wade out into the water for a really long way, and there were starfish. And this was one of those places I would have stayed longer, but I didn't have a cell phone signal. The seagull tried to hitch a ride with me. Now, this campground had the right idea with their bathrooms. They had 3 women's stalls, 1 man's stalls, and 1 stall with no door for the exhibitionist. I think this was how it should be. I drove a few hours north to San Ignacio, Mexico. The drive was breathtaking. There were hundreds of vans and campers and buses and adventure vehicles, and I absolutely see why they love that area. San Ignacio is a cute little town with a cool little town square where people gather together. I like that, a little place to socialize in the evenings. I stayed at a little campground nestled in the palm trees, just a short walk to town, and listened to tree frogs at night. From there, I headed north to Guerrero Negro. Now, I showed a bit of this whale watching excursion at the beginning of this video, but I gotta tell you, I was so emotional that I cried during this excursion. Once the motor was turned off, the whales would swim right over to the boat. They were curious, and I think they liked rubbing against the boat. right next to you. You knew that was coming. I think they like to rub on the boat. And I swear, one came up and looked me right in the eye. You could reach out and pet them, and this was by far the best whale watching experience of my life times 10. My next stop was Bahia de Los Angeles. I just sat in my lawn chair looking out. I couldn't get over how pretty it was. Again, I had no cell phone signal, so I couldn't really be distracted. All there was to do was enjoy it. This was a beautiful spot on the beach, and it was free camping. And it was time to go back to the US. Before I even crossed the border, I was already missing Baja. And when I did cross the border, I went into Yuma, Arizona, and it just felt so different. I'd spent a month in peaceful, beautiful Baja, and then you cross the border and it's chaos and traffic and restaurants and cars and a little bit of a culture shock. So that was my trip to Baja. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I'll be happy to answer. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the Baja video, and I'll see you on the next one.